Hello, everyone. Welcome into the View House Centennial. It's hot outside, but nice and cool here. And, of course, it is going to be a great show because we got the one, the only, Mark Schlereth, Super Bowl champions, plural, plural, and analyst. You do a little bit of everything. No one better we want to talk about Broncos camp with, especially on the first day of pads, Stink. What were you looking for on a day like today, and what did you like and not like?
Well, I mean, I think you look for the same stuff every year when the pads come on. Execution as offense, and there's always this kind of time frame when you first put on pads for the first 3 or 4 days where the defense can just pin its ears back and go.
Yeah.
And so they're always kind of ahead of the offense. And you saw some of that today with some false starts and just some bad cadence, bad snap counts, things that put the offense behind the chains, so to speak. And, those are some of the things that really derailed this offense a year ago, the sacks and some of the penalties. So you're always looking for that. Then you're looking for, the execution of the offense. How do the quarterbacks look? And, we're going to make a big deal of that until we don't make a big deal anymore, until they name somebody, right? But until that point, it's always going to be a big deal.
Well, let's talk about them, of course. Let's make a big deal about it. A lot of people kind of think, Stink, this is maybe less a competition, maybe more a decision. It feels like everybody has their eyes pegged on 10 to win it. Where do you think this really stands?
Well, I think ultimately one of the things you have to understand early is you try to alleviate camp arm.
Yeah.
So you see quarterbacks, even when I was playing, even John Elway, man, they get dead arm during training camp, and they have to take a couple days off. Well, the one thing you don't want with Bo Nix as a rookie quarterback is you don't want him to get camp arm and all of a sudden have to have 3 days off. It puts you behind the 8 ball. So the rotation is actually a decent thing from a health standpoint. And I think what will happen eventually here in the next week, and next probably by Thursday or Friday, they'll start divvying up the reps to where you'll see one guy kind of take the lion's share of the #1 reps and another guy take the backup reps, and you'll see that kind of just play out over the course of the next week. And I expect something toward the end of next week to where we really see what that is. And ultimately, unless he really just screws up, I can't see a scenario where Bo Nix is in the starter week 1.
Yeah, that seems to be the sentiment. There's a lot of pressure and expectation this year on the offensive line. Obviously, Sean Payton's invested very, very heavily the past 2 seasons. This group, do you feel like they can live up to those expectations and really help a rookie quarterback if it is Bo Nix?
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, a part of that is your ability to call plays, your ability to put guys in positions to be aggressive, your ability to stay in front of the chains, not take sacks, not turn the ball over. All those things become very important in the development of an offensive line. And so I think those are things. When you look at New Orleans, in his 15 years in New Orleans, I always say this, think about his receiving corps. I mean, he had Marcus Colston, a 7th rounder. He had a bunch of guys, Deveray Henderson. He had guys that were not considered top of the heap wide receivers. Michael Thomas was a big time, but he was a 2nd rounder, right? And developed into a big time player. But one thing about Sean over the years, and when you worked as an analyst and you studied the New Orleans Saints at the time, I even worked for the organization as a consultant. They're going to dominate both lines of scrimmage, and it goes back to Sean's experience growing up in the league with Bill Parcells. So that's what they're going to do, and I look at them right now, and I think the strength is that offensive line and that defensive line and some of the additions they made to the D-line.
It's good. Sometimes they say it's won and lost in the trenches, as you would know very, very well. We're so happy to have Mark Schlereth in the house tonight. We got to take a little break here on Monday Live. Welcome back into the View House Centennial. Got a great Xfinity Monday Live tonight because we got Mark Schlereth to join us after about a week of training camp, and we love it because you always shoot us straight. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mark, you look at the books, not a lot of big odds for the Broncos this year. I think it's maybe 5.5 games. Are the Broncos going to be as bad as the nation thinks, or you think they might surprise?
No, I think they'll probably be a pleasant surprise. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins? I'm not sure. But I think the issue is, and you got to understand, like when I'm calling games, my knowledge of that particular team is a mile deep and an inch wide. Yeah. When you're a national broadcaster and you're covering all 32 teams, your knowledge is an inch deep and a mile wide.
Okay.
And so what ends up happening is you see some highlights and you look at statistics. And there's a lot of people out there that are judging the Broncos based on Russell Wilson throwing 26 TDs versus 8 interceptions. And when you really break it down, he was awful last year. And so, you know, the number of sacks he takes and the number of times he puts the team behind the 8 ball, the number of times he doesn't throw the football and doesn't take a chance pushing it down the football field where you've got to throw it and you've got to make that play. There's a lot of that, but you don't, as a national analyst, you're watching some highlights or you're not digging in as deeply. And so I think you miss a lot. So I think part of the reason is, hey, you've got a rookie quarterback, and rookie quarterbacks, you know, historically struggle.
Yeah.
And we get that. But a lot of people are, I think, are misrepresenting the impact that Russell Wilson actually had.
Yeah.
And so I look at those things, you know, tip the scales. And then ultimately, for me, with the rookie quarterbacks, it's who's got the best fit. And when I look at Sean Payton with Bo Nix, that to me is the best fit of the 6 quarterbacks drafted. So a lot of people will say, well, you took the 6th best quarterback. And I'm like, yeah, but we got the best fit available of all 6 guys. And so, and Bo Nix starting 61 games and some of the things he does, he's a really intriguing prospect.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a lot of maturity, too, which has certainly impressed the guys. But it feels like this could be a year. Maybe we see a couple guys break out. So who is your pick of which player is going to have a breakout year in 2024?
Yeah, interestingly, you know, I would look at a guy like Marvin Mims as a potential huge breakout guy. I hope Tim Patrick is back to being Tim Patrick and he can overcome the injuries he's had. The little running back McLaughlin is a guy that is really intriguing because he's quick as a hiccup, but he's a difference maker, a change of pace difference maker for them. So there's a few guys on the offensive side that I think have, you know, kind of breakout potential.
Quick as a hiccup. I like that one. You mentioned the offensive side. Defensively, it feels like this group is really trying to really level up from last year and continue the good parts, that kind of 5-game win streak type of defense. You think that they can level up based on what you've seen?
Yeah, well, I think obviously they had Zach Allen last year, and I think they supported him. DJ Jones, a really outstanding player, had some injury issues, really good player. I think their rotation, going out and getting Franklin Myers, a really good pickup, going out and getting Roach. They've got guys, to me, that are good fits and play a role. And I think that's a good thing. Abdullah also one of those guys. And then I really thought Cody Barton, like last year, I was telling everybody, let me tell you what, Alex Singleton is an outstanding player. Everywhere he goes, they try to make him a backup and special teams guy. But I was telling people last year, this guy is unbelievable. Then he goes out and puts together a phenomenal year, phenomenal season. I feel kind of similar about Cody Barton. I've watched Cody Barton with Seattle. Then obviously last year I did some of his games in Washington. I think he's a really good player, really solid player. And I think he athletically is an upgrade a little bit over Josie Jewell. So I think that's a good pickup.
There you go. That inspires a lot of confidence. I'm feeling pretty good after this segment.
Well, yeah, let's not, I mean, you know, again, not too good, but I think better than a lot of people anticipate.
Yeah, okay. Pleasantly surprised.
Yes,
I think that's a good attitude to go into. So on that note, let's take a break because I'm feeling pleasantly surprised, and we'll send it over to Karen to get us caught up. Thanks, Karen. Well, it's time now for the People Want to Know. People Want to Know brought to you by Common Spirit, official healthcare partner of the Denver Broncos and champions for the communities we serve. And Tricia wants to know your favorite training camp memory from your time as a player.
Oh, from my time.
Got to dig in the vault.
Yeah, the end of camp. I just like the camaraderie. I just like I love going up to Greeley. I love packing your crap up, and I love just being sequestered with the guys. Like it was fun, and there was real connection and camaraderie and love for one another, and kind of that whole misery loves company. You know, we were all in that miserable place together, so I just enjoyed it.
You didn't even mind the smell?
No, not at all.
I love it. That's awesome. That was the People Want to Know, brought to you by Common Spirit. We got to take a quick break, but on the other side, I got a question for Stink on just how dumb a team can be. He'll answer.
I like it.
after this. So I know you don't like the Raiders at the best of times, but let's talk about the Raiders mocking, of all people, Patrick Mahomes. My question is, how dumb can you be?
About that dumb? I mean, that's about how dumb you can be. You know, I mean, I appreciate the bravado, but and it is defensive guys that are mocking Patrick Mahomes, so they're going to be the ones that have to face him. But just be careful. I remember years and years ago, a DB from the Steelers essentially mocking Tom Brady, and Tom Brady going into this game, I think it was a playoff game, and absolutely eviscerating the Steelers, and then, you know, talking about it afterwards, not beforehand, but afterwards. So, you know, players have a memory bank, a long memory for stuff like that when they feel disrespected, and it becomes real. And then everybody rallies around it because Patrick Mahomes is obviously very loved in Kansas City by his teammates. Yeah.
Andy Reid's going to let him. Let's not all forget the Dontari Poe touchdown. He's going to let him go ham.
Yeah,
right?
We know
no
question.
No question. Hello, everyone. Thanks for logging on to CBSColorado.com. Time now for a few extra minutes with Mark Schlereth, football analyst extraordinaire. Now, we had you on Monday Live. You gave us some great insight onto what you think will happen in this quarterback competition. But for those who didn't get to see it, what do you think Bo Nix has to do? I'm just going to say it this way, to win the job.
Yeah, I think, one, he just has to operate in and out of the huddle exceptionally well, make sure that he's in command, that he knows the plays, that he understands where he's supposed to go with the football, he understands all the checks, and that he can spit it out seamlessly so they can get to the line of scrimmage and operate. If he does that, I have no doubt about his ability to orchestrate the offense, to throw it with accuracy, to throw it with timing. He's done that. I mean, he started 61 games, but he did that at Oregon. So I have no question that he can do all those things. It's just a matter of being confident, being composed, and he has that maturity about him. So, like, I would be literally, other than injury, I don't think there's anything that keeps him from being the starting quarterback week one.
All right, you kind of answered that, but I'm going to flip it on you. What would Jarrett Stidham or Zach Wilson have to do potentially to surpass Bo and somehow win the job?
Well, I think that you look at Jarrett Stidham, he's going to be steady Eddie.
Yeah.
And, you know, steady Eddie isn't going to be enough. He's going to have to be spectacular. And you're going to have to see a jump in his game where it's like, oh, my God, what we thought was the ceiling, he just shattered right through it. And he's, you know, exponentially grown. Zach Wilson is probably, just from a pure talent standpoint, the most talented of the three. So he's going to have to command the offense and then let that talent flash and eliminate mistakes. But, again, like I said, I just think, based upon where they drafted him and what they want to accomplish, I would be shocked if Bo isn't the answer right away. The other thing I think is, why would you wait?
Yeah.
Like, hey, people say, well, Seattle's a tough place to play. Good. Baptism by fire. Put him in the toughest environment, right? And then come back and face down Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just think, I just think that's the best thing that could happen. You're not going to face many tougher situations throughout your career than week one and week two here in Denver. So I just think that that's what they need to prepare for, and that's the way they need to go about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love it. And still the confidence that you believe you can do it out there.
Right.
Let's talk about the guys in front of him. Quinn Miners obviously cashes in on a big deal. Incredible story. Do you think that he's worth all that money?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's what the market bears,
Yeah.
and he's become a really good player. You mentioned the story. It's a great story, but he's become a really dominant, run blocking type of player, and good for him. And I love from an organizational standpoint, when one of your guys that you drafts exceeds expectations, grows within the system, and then you reward that guy because he's earned it. That's a great sign to everybody within the organization. And you really can't build a football team in the National Football League just in free agency, because you're paying A+ money for B- players. That's how free agency works.
Yeah.
So you can patch a few holes that you're missing, but you don't want to build your team that way. So it's a great thing for the Broncos to reward Quinn Miners after that. After the first couple of years that he's had success.
Yeah, I think he's only going to get better and better. Let's go to the other side of the line. Garrett Bowles entering the final season of his contract without a new deal, but he came to all OTAs. He's come to everything. How do you think this ends up for Garrett Bowles? He is the longest tenured Bronco now. You think he gets another deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think Garrett Bowles is willing to sign kind of hometown discount deals.
Yeah.
He loves being here. And he is, you want to talk about a guy that, shoot, much maligned me. I'm enemy number one. Basically, you know, the way he played when he came in early as a first rounder, it was just not good enough. And, you know, he faced the criticism. He heard all the criticism. And, man, that guy just kept working. And you got to give a guy like that a ton of credit because he's dramatically improved. He's become a very good player for the Broncos. And he wants to be here. And there's value in that. Value in having a guy that wants to be here. He's still one of the most exceptionally gifted offensive tackles in football. The guy is an athletic freak show. So, yeah, I could see them signing him to another, you know, really good deal, but not – you know, not one of the top deals in the National Football League, but a really good deal that is both beneficial for him and the Broncos.
Mark, I think one of the most interesting competitions in this camp is the running backs competition. I mean, you could make an argument that there's 4 guys plus Mike Burton that could make this roster.
Sure.
How many of these guys you think end up making the roster?
Yeah, I think I mean, I think there legitimately could be 4. Well, there will be 4 with a fullback, but I think there could be 5.
Yeah.
And it just depends on, you know, health. It depends on who can play special teams. Also, if you can get versatility out of a player. So, Jaleel McLaughlin, for instance. You know, Sean Payton always talks about the joker position, right? Yeah. And so in New Orleans, he had Taysom Hill, who played tight end. He played the Y tight end. He played the F tight end, which is the movement guy. He played the slot receiver, which is an F. He played the X and the Z. He played QB, and he played fullback and running back. I mean, the guy played every position on offense, of an offensive line. But when you have a guy that can do multiple things like that, as a defensive coordinator, when that guy comes in, you've got to make a decision. Is he playing quarterback? Do they keep the quarterback in? Okay, then is he tailback? Oh, is he a tight end? Is he a receiver? What are they going to do? And if Jaleel can be a guy that can not only be a dynamic little running back, but now all of a sudden you can bring him in what they call 21 ponies, so they can bring him in with another tailback. So you have 2 tailbacks in there, and now all of a sudden he can go out and if he could run routes and be outside the numbers and actually be a slot receiver. Well, now you can keep a 5th running back and make one guy that kind of joker and have him play multiple positions. So those are the kind of things that offensive coaches are thinking about, because they make you as a defense tell them what you're going to do, how you're going to play it, what personnel you're going to use. Normally, if you come in with 2 running backs, you're going to get some type of heavy personnel on defense. But if you come in with, you know, Javonte Williams and Jaleel McGee, now all of a sudden you got to make a decision. Do we want to play base, 3 linebackers, or do we want to take a linebacker out and bring a nickel guy in? Or do we want to take 2 linebackers out and play in dime? So those are the decisions. And you have to tell, all of a sudden you got to trot guys on. You have to tell us what you're doing. And so it gives you options. And so that's, those are roster decisions that as you get through camp, they'll start to kind of parse those out.
Well, Stink, you're like the joker of the media market here. You do it all. You do radio, TV. We're one of the smartest football minds here. I always learn something. Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Good to see you, Romy.
Guys, thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.